is my pleasure tonight to introduce a young man who is fairly new to the reference library at the Great Neck Library. And I have to say, Matthew Fleisig has dug in. He loves researching. He has come here with this passion for history. And every now and then, Matthew will email me and say, I found this really interesting nugget of history or a photograph. I thought you'd be interested. And it is always something that is fascinating. And it's just exciting to see a young person in our community who's taking such an interest in the history of Great Neck, which is very rich, is very varied. And so tonight, he's going to be talking about what I call a real power couple in Great Neck, who made a tremendous impact on this community through their efforts, their involvement, their community service, their donations to the community. Real philanthropists. But he has the story for you with all the details. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matthew.
Would you like this?
Thank you, Carol, for the kind words. I will tell all of you up front, I am by no means an expert, and I'm sure there's more to this story that a lot of people can add, but I tried to include the most important points I thought about Roswell and Louise Eldridge. Also, I'd like to thank the Historical Society. Thank you, Carol. Thank you to the Great Neck Library also for allowing me to do this. My coworker, David Aubrey's here. If you want to know about Great Neck history, David's the guy to talk to. And his brother actually used to be the local history librarian at the library. So, to get started, good evening. My name is Matthew Fleisig, and I'm a reference librarian at the Great Neck Library. I would like to thank the Great Neck Library and the Great Neck Historical Society for allowing me to speak with you here tonight and tell the story of Roswell Eldridge and Louise Skidmore Eldridge, a couple who made significant contributions to Great Neck society during their lifetimes. Roswell Eldridge is labeled in the press as the Andrew Carnegie of Great Neck, and Louise was labeled as Great Neck's First Lady. This presentation will highlight how both of their contributions led them to being anointed with these titles and illustrate to you tonight how they both helped improve Great Neck as it entered the 20th century. Roswell Eldridge was born on December 1st, 1856 in Hempstead, New York, to Roswell Eldridge Sr. and Anna Liza Angevine Eldridge. Roswell Eldridge Sr. was the treasurer of the town of Hempstead. Roswell met Louise while he was working for her grandfather, James Udall. Udall, along with Whitehead Hewlett, formed the Great Neck Steamboat Wharf Company as a result of Great Neck's residents desiring to travel by boat to New York City. When he passed away, James Udall, was described by the Brooklyn Daily Times as one of the most widely known and respected of the residents of the North Shore. Despite his fortune, James Udall was reported to be someone who did not flaunt his wealth, and he resided with his family at their home off of Little Neck Bay. Louise, who was born on February 20th, 1860, to William James Skidmore and Louise W. Udall, James's daughter, they all lived in their grandfather's home, and her mother raised Louise there along with Louise's uncle, grandfather, and grandmother Margaret, because William Skidmore passed away in 1866 when Louise was only 6. As he grew older, Roswell Eldridge became involved in numerous business ventures, which included the Hoboken Ferry Company, the Union and Astoria Ferry Company, and the Kings County Trust Company. I apologize. Here's the photo of the steamboat landing that was probably used by James Udall's company, and this was right in Little Neck Bay. After making a decent fortune from his businesses, Roswell married Louise on December 1st, 1894, at the Church of the Holy Communion in New York City. After they were married, Roswell had a mansion constructed on the property in Saddle Rock, and their estate consisted of over 120 acres. At that time, it wasn't called Saddle Rock yet. Unfortunately, Roswell's wealth did not go unnoticed, and it resulted in him and his wife becoming a target to armed robbers. In January of 1907, the Brooklyn Daily Times reported that an attempted robbery took place at the Eldridge estate, which resulted in Roswell Eldridge having a physical altercation with a burglar. According to the Times, one of the burglars climbed up one of the pillars of the mansion and tried to enter through a second-story window. Eldridge, who was dressed in his pajamas, heard the commotion and rushed to the scene. After noticing the burglar, Eldridge, who was armed, fired one shot, but missed, and then the burglar returned fire, but he missed. The burglar then jumped from the roof, and for a few moments, Eldridge was unable to locate him. However, he finally saw the burglar running towards Little Neck Bay, and he fired one more shot. Eldridge believed that his second shot connected with the burglar, who he saw wincing in pain, managing to escape, which he eventually did. After the robbery, footprints were found around the mansion, indicating that there were at least 2 men who were attempting to rob them. Now, as many of you might know, Roswell Eldridge and Saddle Rock are very connected because Saddle Rock was his property. In the year 1911, Eldridge incorporated his property into the village of Saddle Rock. Saddle Rock was named after a saddle-shaped rock that was located in Little Neck Bay. During the time the village was incorporated, there were about 77 residents living on the property, which included either Eldridge's family members or employees. Once the village was incorporated, Eldridge himself served as its first mayor. And then, after his death, he was succeeded by Louise, his wife. The Eldridges served as mayor without pay, and it was reported that running the village of Saddle Rock was similar to managing their estate. The village of Saddle Rock also had its own police force, which consisted of 1 officer who would patrol and direct traffic on Saddle Rock's only road. After the officer's death, it was reported that Nassau County took over the road, and the Saddle Rock police force came to an end. The first clerk of the village of Saddle Rock was Augusta W. Rusden, and the elected board of trustees of the village would meet every 4 months at Village Hall, which was located in the gristmill. Another well-known resident of Saddle Rock at the time was Louise Eldridge Grace, who was the daughter of former NYC Mayor William Russell Grace, who Grace Avenue was named after. When Louise became the mayor of Saddle Rock, she was one of the earliest female members in the history of New York State. I would like now to turn to the focus of this presentation, which will be the contributions made by the Eldridges to Great Neck. The first contribution I would like to talk about is how Roswell Eldridge played a part in bringing a water district to Great Neck. In late June of 1903, it was reported in the Brooklyn Eagle that Eldridge purchased all the rights and property owned by the Manhasset Water Company. 2 years later, he sold it to Cord Meyer of the Citizens Water Company in 1905, but there was a catch. The catch was, according to the Brooklyn Eagle, the Manhasset Water Company was sold to Meyer on the condition that he would guarantee to supply the villages of Great Neck, Thomaston, and Manhasset with water within 6 months. Meyer's plan was to use the water from the Foster Farm that was located in Douglaston, which the Brooklyn Eagle said had an inexhaustible supply of water. The plan also was for a standpipe to be built behind the Spinney Memorial Church, which was reported to have an elevation of about 200 feet, which the Brooklyn Eagle said would ensure an ample pressure for fire purposes throughout the 3 villages which it was supposed to supply. According to the Brooklyn Daily Times, the Manhasset Water Company, under Meyer, also purchased the property owned by Bloodgood Cutter between Little Neck and Great Neck to be used to provide Great Neck and Thomaston residents with water. 5 years later, the Manhasset Lakeville Water District came into being, which was reported to be one of the oldest water districts on Long Island. Therefore, although he wasn't directly involved after the contract was given, I would like to say that Eldridge definitely played a significant role in getting the ball rolling for the creation of the Manhasset Lakeville Water District, which continues to operate today. I would now like to turn over to another contribution the Eldridges made, which is a donation to All Saints Church. For years, Roswell and Louise Eldridge were members of the congregation and participated in numerous programs run by the church. On May 6, 1904, Roswell Eldridge presented the church silver bells that, according to the Brooklyn Daily Times, cost $10,000, which is the equivalent of being over $360,000 today. In addition, the Times stated that Eldridge also paid for the repairs and alterations of the church's tower, the hanging of the bells, and the installation of ringing mechanisms. The following day, on May 7th, 1904, the bells at the church were rung for the first time, and the Times stated that the occasion was, quote, a holiday in the village. Numerous stores and businesses in Great Neck closed in order for the employees to be given a chance to see and hear the church bells. Now, another area where Roswell Eldridge was involved in was the transformation of the bridge right by the library on Bayview Avenue, which was called the Udall's Pond Bridge. Now it's called the 9/11 Memorial Bridge. And he helped transform it from iron and steel into concrete. And here's how he did it. According to the Brooklyn Daily Times, in May of 1906, Eldridge was riding on his horse, as you can see from his photo, he liked horses, across the bridge, which at the time was made of iron and steel, and he noticed that the bridge was afloat. As a result, he had one of his workers go into the pond to investigate the problem, and his worker discovered that the bridge's piers were unstable since one of the corner piers sank to the bottom of the pond. After this experience, Eldridge said that his days traveling across the bridge were over, and in order to improve the bridge, Roswell appeared before the North Hempstead Town Board and the Commissioners of Highways at the town clerk's office in Roslyn. During his appearance before the town, Eldridge advocated for the iron and steel bridge to be replaced with concrete. This was because Eldridge believed that multiple repairs would have to be made in order to preserve the bridge if it was to keep its iron and steel structure, and those repairs he felt would be inconsiderate to Great Neck's residents, since every time the bridge would be repaired, it would have to be closed, which would alter the travel of all the people in the town. He therefore felt that having a concrete bridge would significantly decrease the amount of repairs the bridge would need, and thus prevent residents from having to continue to alter their travel throughout the area, but most importantly, maintain a safe bridge for them to cross. At the meeting, Eldridge had an engineer representing the A.E. Sanford Company of Hoboken, New Jersey, prepare a plan and estimate for the construction of the concrete bridge. The plan called for a 4-span concrete bridge that the company could build for about $14,000, which would be worth a little over $500,000 today. Eldridge personally donated $1,000 for the construction of the bridge, which would be equivalent today to be donating $36,000. It was reported by the Brooklyn Times that on June 5, 1906, the Board of Commissioners of Highways of the town of North Hempstead adopted a resolution that requested the town of North Hempstead to grant them permission to replace the iron and steel bridge at Udall Mills Pond with a concrete structure. Due to Eldridge's influence, numerous residents of Great Neck donated money to the project, which made up 1/5 of the cost of the bridge. And it was reported that the bridge was to be 350 feet long and 20 feet wide. In 1907, the bridge was completed, and in 1971, it was widened, and after September 11th, it was renamed the 9/11 Memorial Bridge. So as you can see, this was during the construction. You can see the old structure on the bottom, and here's the concrete bridge. 1906 was a very important year, which is relevant now because we're all sitting in one of his biggest contributions, I think, to Great Neck, which was the construction of the Great Neck House, where we are today. The Great Neck House was given by the Eldridges as a new home for the Great Neck Library. Before I get into details about how the Great Neck House came to be, it would be important to address with all of you how Louise, his wife, was involved with the library during its early years. Louise Eldridge was not only a founding member of the library, since she was one of the female Great Neck residents who met at the home of Harriet Onderdonk to organize the library, but she was also involved in its early fundraising activities and was responsible for the creation of the Great Neck Library's constitution and bylaws. In addition, Louise played a significant role in the library's incorporation on February 19, 1889. Louise also served as a member of the library's Board of Trustees for 67 years, from 1880 to 1947. During that period, she was the board secretary for 35 years and then its president for the remaining 32. Aside from his wife's involvement with the library, Roswell was also fond of libraries himself, and according to the Brooklyn Daily Times, he stated that libraries would help individuals become more advanced in learning. Prior to being located at the Great Neck House, the library was located here in the Great Neck League building. However, this posed a problem since it was not a suitable size for a library. Therefore, Roswell and Louise thought something should be done. In order for a new library to be constructed, Eldridge purchased property on the south side of Arundel Avenue, which cost him $5,000, and the cost for the construction of this building was about $30,000. The building, the Great Neck House, was designed by the firm of Foster, Gade, and Graham, and was built in the English style. It was 1 story high and built to be used only for library purposes. On January 16, 1907, the ground was broken for the new library building, and it was believed the building would be finished by the early spring. It was also Roswell's intention to add updated collections to the library. The library was officially opened on July 12, 1907, and it was 30 by 70 feet. The new library contained about 4,000 books, and membership and circulation doubled. The building consisted of a large room, half of which was used as a reading room, and contained a fireplace and was filled with magazines and newspapers. The donation of the new library is what caused the press to label him the Andrew Carnegie of Great Neck. According to the Brooklyn Daily Times, Eldridge responded to his comparison with Carnegie by stating, "Please don't call me the Andrew Carnegie of Great Neck," as one paper referred to it. Mr. Carnegie is certainly doing grand work. Aside from donating to the library financially, Eldridge also donated physical objects such as a large globe, a set of fire irons, and a large oak wood box. Aside from the library, Roswell Eldridge is also involved with other Great Neck organizations and institutions such as the Great Neck Athletic Club and the Bank of Great Neck. On July 17, 1909, it was reported that Eldridge gave the athletic club a tract of land which adjoined his estate to be used as an athletic field, and he would make donations for its maintenance. The field later became known as Eldridge Field. The club would hold meetings on that field the club would hold events on that field which included running, jumping, pole vaults, and bicycle races. According to the Brooklyn Eagle, Eldridge promised to do everything in his power to make the association equal to any on Long Island. He also donated $5,000 to the athletic club for the erection of a new clubhouse. He was also involved, in addition to the Great Neck Athletic Club, with the Bank of Great Neck, where he was a member of its board of directors and then served as vice president and eventually president. Another major contribution that I would like to say both Louise and Roswell made to Great Neck was the creation of the Great Neck Park District. On March 20th, 1916, the New York State Legislature passed a law known as Chapter 54, which allowed tax-paying citizens the right to form a park district. According to the Brooklyn Eagle, Eldridge decided to secure an option of 26 lots on the property of George W. Hayden, whose house you can see right here. Hayden was the collector of taxes for the town of North Hempstead, Justice of the Peace, and was appointed postmaster during the Grover Cleveland administration. Hayden's property had a frontage of 325 feet on the Long Island Sound and was located on Steamboat Road. The price Hayden asked for was $40,000, and Eldridge advanced $500 for the option and was willing to give it over to the town of North Hempstead, providing that a park would be located on the property. Eldridge told a reporter of the Brooklyn Eagle, quote, "I believe that the acquiring of the Hayden plot would be of great advantage to the community. This plot seems to be altogether the most desirable piece that can be obtained for bathing and boating, as it is situated at the end of the main road running through Great Neck. According to the Brooklyn Eagle, prior to Eldridge securing an option on the Hayden property, there was not a decent area for Great Neck residents to use for swimming or boating, except in a small area located near Hayden's property. Eldridge told the Eagle that the purchasing the land would give the owners of all inland property access to a most desirable beach and would add greatly to the values of all inland property in the district. Therefore, in early August of 1916, Eldridge began to circulate petitions throughout Great Neck for the establishment of the Park District, and on August 14, 1916, Eldridge appeared before the Town of North Hempstead Board and presented to them the petition which contained signatures of owners of real estate at Great Neck that was valued by the Brooklyn Eagle to be over $3 million, which today would be equivalent to about $89 million. Eldridge was labeled in the press as the father of the park project, and it was reported by the Eagle that through Eldridge's efforts, the Hayden property became the first public park and beach to be operated by the newly formed Great Neck Park District. The Eagle also claimed that the present and future generations of Great Neck will laud the name of Roswell Eldridge as they revel in the delights of the public playground on the Sound shore. Other Long Island villages need an Eldridge. Other parks, such as Allenwood Park and the Village Green, would follow, and his wife Louise would also serve as the chair of the Great Neck Park District's Board of Commissioners. They were also both involved in the erection of the World War I Memorial in Village Green Park, which was located on the corner of Middle Neck Road and Beach Road. According to the Brooklyn Daily Times, the memorial was erected to honor 16 soldiers from Great Neck who lost their lives in World War I, and the memorial was a stone cross that was 16 feet high, and on the bottom were inscribed the names of the soldiers. Roswell Eldridge passed away on January 20th, 1927 at his home in Great Neck. His funeral was held at All Saints Church, and he is buried at St. George's Church Cemetery in Hempstead. After his death, Louise inherited all of Roswell's cars, horses, livestock, jewelry, and other personal items, and she also inherited the position of mayor of Saddle Rock. Louise's contributions to Great Neck continued after her husband's death, which included the Chapel Theater. Prior to the Chapel Theater, there was the old Great Neck Playhouse, which unfortunately went under due to the rise of movie theaters throughout the area. As a result, residents of Great Neck decided to advocate for a new theater to be given to the community. After hearing about the call for a new theater, Louise Eldridge donated a piece of property on Middle Neck Road to the Great Neck Society for Social Advancement and Education to be used for a theater. On this property once stood this building right here, the Union Chapel. The Union Chapel was Great Neck's first non-sectarian church and was built in 1863 during the Civil War. The church served the residents of Great Neck for 24 years from 1863 to 1887, and Louise's family was tied to the church since her uncle, Abram Post Skidmore, William's brother, donated $5,000 in order to help maintain the church. Eventually, as other churches that served specific denominations sprang up throughout Great Neck, the church became almost abandoned. It was during World War I that it was used by the Red Cross, and then by the Great Neck Women's Club, and then a local theater group called the Great Neck Players. Once the church was acquired by the Great Neck Society for Social Advancement and Education, it was remodeled with the addition of large wings and an increase to the size of the stage. The theater contained dressing rooms, a scenic workshop, and it was able to fit an audience of about 250 members. This building later became the Great Neck Youth Center, and today it is used by the village school. Louise Eldridge was also one of the founding members and later president of the Great Neck Health League. The league was formed in April of 1913 by female residents of Great Neck in order to assist in providing health care services to its low-income residents. When they were formed, the members of the league desired to raise $1,000 to run the league for the first year by having either citizens donate funds or become members themselves at an annual rate of $1. The league also hired a visiting nurse who would assist doctors in providing care for the poor residents of Great Neck. If a family could not afford to pay the nurse, they would not be charged. The league would hold meetings at the Great Neck High School during its early years, and during the 1930s, they would own what was referred to as the Health League House, which was also located here on Arundel Avenue. According to the Brooklyn Daily Times, the league had about 143 members, and the nurse made over 1,600 visits to sick patients. The league also organized its own nursery school, which was also located on Arundel Avenue, and they also created a health league school for grades 1 to 6 that would teach kids how to maintain good hygiene. Louise was also involved with the Great Neck branch of the American Red Cross. In July of 1917, a benefit performance took place here for the American Red Cross on the estate of William Gould Brokaw. The event took place in a tent, which would hold about 1,000 people. The event raised about $10,000. Louise didn't just attend the event, she also directed the work of the Committee of Women of the branch in illuminating the tent. Other activities the Red Cross did during Louise's membership were activities such as shipping a box of over 200 garments for hospital patients. They met daily to be educated about bandage rolling and nursing. And she also participated in having comfort kits sent to the 1st Engineers of France, which was a regiment organized by Major Arthur S. White, who wrote a letter to Louise that was published in the Brooklyn Daily Times thanking her for the kits. Louise Eldridge in her later years also continued to make contributions to the village of Saddle Rock. In 1936 and 1940, she sold large tracts of land to the Robert J. Rose Company. One second. Unfortunately, one sec. All right. Oh, it's right here. Sorry about that. It's okay. Can't be a good presentation without hiccups.
Right.
Okay. According to the Brooklyn Eagle, this was the first time a piece of acreage from the Eldridge property was sold. Rose wanted to use the land to construct 350 homes on the property, and his plan also consisted of using part of the property that contained woods and a stream to be made into a public park. He also purchased another large tract of land from Louise Eldridge and wanted to use this property to develop a private park known as Harbor Hills. The Brooklyn Eagle reported that the homes would cost around $10,500 to be built. According to the Eagle, the southern part of the property donated by Eldridge adjoined the Soundview Golf Course. The west of the property was adjoined by the Long Island Sound. The north was adjoined by the Eldridge Estate, and the east, Bayview Avenue. Louise also gave a wooded section of the property to the village of Great Neck to be used as a park. 1940 was also the year in which Louise contributed to restoring the grist mill at Saddle Rock. The grist mill was in Louise's family since the 1830s when her great-grandfather, Richard Udall, purchased the mill from a man named John Treadwell. According to the Brooklyn Eagle, Louise Eldridge, as mayor of Saddle Rock, spent around $1,000 on repairing the mill, which is equivalent to about $23,000 today. 2 months was devoted to fixing the wheel, which was located on the left side of the mill. The office, which was located in the mill that the Board of Trustees of the village used to meet in, was renovated to what the Eagle called a modern room with electric lights. During the last year of her life, Louise Eldridge donated 7 acres of her land to the Great Neck Board of Education in order for a new school to be built, which is where Saddle Rock Elementary School is today. A month before she died, Louise also donated 5 acres to be used in Saddle Rock for the site of a proposed hospital that was going to be called the Great Neck Memorial Hospital. According to the New York Times, the hospital was to be a T-shaped modern building located in Saddle Rock. The hospital was meant to serve a population of 70,000, and unfortunately, it never came to be. Louise died after a short illness at her home at the age of 88 years old. Her funeral was also held at All Saints Church, and she was buried alongside Roswell at St. George's Church Cemetery in Hempstead. So ends the tale of Roswell Eldridge and Louise Skidmore Eldridge, a couple who played a major role in improving Great Neck during the first half of the 20th century. Thank you.